Hello folks, welcome. LMDE 6 Cinnamon. You can use the same information on Linux Mint 22 Cinnamon. I'm going to talk about SAMBA today. SAMBA is a weird word, but it is used for file sharing. Alright, so I have SAMBA installed, and generally people have a little problem when they're trying to share things. I have two folders that are actually being shared. Even if you take a peek at that, it doesn't look like it. So what I'm going to do is on my laptop, I'm going to be sending some files to this machine. They just appeared out of nowhere. Actually, I just transmitted that from Linux Mint 22 to this LMDE 6 machine. But more importantly, I have a little different twist for you today. So most people are going to be trying this out and they run into this problem right here. I have a different way of doing things. And you can play with this until the cows come home, and you probably will never succeed in getting that to work properly. So I'm going to show you my way of doing things. We're going to be doing some file sharing today. If this is your cup of tea, continue watching. I'm filming in 1080. I highly recommend that you watch the video in its entirety and subscribe. Last week, I did a video on KDE Connect, where I was sending photos from an iPhone. You can do the same thing with an Android to this Linux Mint computers. It doesn't matter if it's LMDE 6 or it was Linux Mint or some other computers. KDE Connect is a versatile tool. Another tool that is in the Linux Mint arsenal is Warpinator. Warpinator is found on both Cinnamon desktops, also on XFCE and Mate desktops. And if you use Warpinator with a firewall, you need to import the firewall rules. I'm using SAMBA with SAMBA firewall rules. And I'll talk about that also toward the latter part of this video. So the first thing that we need to understand is in your software manager, there is SAMBA. It's a weird word. Let's try that again. S-A-M-B-A. There we go. So I'm installing this. This is normally not installed, but your common bin files are. The lib files maybe, and Python, and I think that's pretty much it. The other laptop that I have has Linux Mint 22 on it without SAMBA installed. And I'm still file sharing from that laptop. Only in this one direction though. I can send files to LMDE 6. And I can also edit them in certain folders. All right, so in either case, on the other laptop, the laptop I should say, this is a tower computer. I have this installed and I have the libs installed on that machine, but not this one. All right, so whenever you are trying to share a folder, all right, it'll say SAMBA not installed if you don't have that installed. Mine is. That's why I'm not getting that message. And a lot of people install that thinking they're good to go. I'm just going to slide this on and I'm going to allow others and guests and hit create. And they miss this part here. And then they start having problems. And it never works right. All right. I don't deal with any of that nonsense. I just, again, install that out of your software manager. So you can see that this does not have any sharing symbols on it, but yet I'm sharing this folder. I'll open it again for you if you like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete a couple of those images from my laptop on that folder you're watching. I'm not going to do all of them. I'll do, let's say 3 and 4, because I'm allowed to. They're gone. I just deleted that on another computer on this folder. All right, let's cover that first. So generally create yourself a folder. I would also use short names and no spaces when you're doing this. I've also talked about that when I talk about backup script files, that I also recommend the same, as you don't put spaces in there. Otherwise you got to do some special provisions if you're using certain script files. But nonetheless, make them short. Nettest, nettest2. So create yourself a folder, call it share 1, share 2, whatever. If you just want a single folder, make a single folder. I just happen to have 2, and the reason for the 2 is they're different. I don't mean by the name only. This is a full access folder and this is restricted. This one has a read only. So what that means that Bob can only put files in here, and he's the only one who can edit things in here and place files in here. Everyone else can only read them. In other words, they can copy the files on their local computers, but they can't add any files in here or delete them. And it's all done with permissions. All right, so net test, right click, properties, permissions. If we don't understand permissions, let me give you an idea. So Bob is our user for today, and Bob owns all these folders and files. So he is the owner, or the owner creator in most cases. So he can create and delete files. He also belongs to his own group called Bob. Most users belong to their own group. But down here it doesn't say other, but this will be everyone else who is not Bob or doesn't belong to Bob's group. But I put the access rights to create and delete for everyone for this folder only, and hit apply permissions. This, on the other hand, I put a little bit more restrictions on. Bob can create and delete, he can also access, but no one has any other rights. And I apply permissions. So Bob is the only one who can add and delete files. Everyone else can see this folder though on the network. I'm going to get rid of these SharePoints for a second just to let you see that after you got it all configured, you can test this out for yourself. But I will talk about that firewall because it will also give you a hindrance if you got it turned on. And I'll show you how to put the firewall rules if you're going to use it. All right, so basically when I click on the network, I can see all the SharePoints, and you can see that says LMDE 6A1. That is this machine. Let me open up terminal. All right, this part is the name of the user. This part is the name of the computer. It's just in lowercase, LMDE 6A1. That's the name of this machine. Okay, that is the SharePoint called nettest and nettest2. Forget about the nobody in print. They'll just cycle on you if you try to log this in as anonymous and keeps doing this all day long. I'm not going to bother. This, on the other hand, I log in as anonymous on the other machine if I'm accessing these folders on this machine. This is how it looks pretty much on the other Linux Mint 22 computer when I did this the first time. Then I can see the folders. Depending on my access rights, I can either edit, put files in here, or delete them. Remember, both of these folders are set differently, and I'll talk about that in detail. Same thing. Now I got 2 SharePoints that are mounted, and that I can leave them here. But more importantly, they're on this local machine. All right. So what is this little text file I have? Well, it's the information regarding this stuff, and not the service that I have down there. So let me blow this up. Ignore that part. What I'm going to advocate that you do after we edit this file and your firewall is to do a reboot, not restarting any services. But this is the amount of lines that you're going to put in for one SharePoint. So in this case, it represents nettest. And I'll explain all these lines in a second. So where's this magic file that does all this magic? Well, it's located in your file system. This is root. Everything starts from root. It is in etc. There's lots of files in here. Type in an S. All right, so I already installed Samba. I already created 2 folders. Now let's talk about configuring this for the system. That is done with this file here. What I'm going to suggest before you even alter this file or play with it is to copy it. This folder, or excuse me, the folder and file are owned by root. That means you need to have root permissions to delete this file or edit it. but we're just going to copy it. And I'm going to dump it in the home folder as a temporary holding tank. Later, I'll create a folder for it and then take and drag it in here. And it'll look just like that. The reason I copy these before I play with them, in case I need to revert, in case I made a mess of things. And I recommend you do the same. So let's go back and find that one more time. Etc. Type in an S, Samba, and we want to edit that file only, and that file only. So if you really are kind of new to the game of editing files in root mode, just be careful. Just be careful. I say that twice. Right click, open as root. Okay? Right click, open as root. You haven't opened anything yet. You're just opening the whole folder in root mode. So you get a big old line across your screen that says elevated privileges and whatever color theme you picked. Okay, in my case it's red. Now I can delete and edit these. I'm going to edit that file because that's the Samba configuration file, which currently has stuff in it. Okay, that stuff, I'll come back to this in a minute. I'm just going to make it a little bit small so I can get it on the screen. Starts with that symbol there. Some people call it a hash, some people call it a pound. Okay, that's what I've been told in the United States. That's called a pound also. But you can see, I'm not going to highlight everything. There's lots of stuff in here. All right, so what you want to do is click above that first symbol there and hit the space bar or enter a couple of times to give you some room in here. And you're going to create all the text in the top half of your file. So later you can delete this if you want to. All right, this information here is exactly what is in here. You can see that. Now I'll make this larger for you. Again, I'm filming in 1080. So what exactly does that stand for? Well, this is just a placeholder to tell me what this is about. If you're curious about that symbol there, you can find it close to your enter key, a little bit above and to the left. And the other one should be next to it. So I typed in net test because that is the name of my folder here. Remember, I created these ahead of time and I gave it the permissions of everybody here and restricted here. You remember the permissions? Let's cover that again. The permissions on this folder, Bob can create, Bob's group can create, and everyone else can also create and apply permissions. This folder, on the other hand, I gave it the permission of Bob can create, Bob can group, Bob can access, no one else can. That's what I did on that folder. All right, so we're still talking about this one. So that's just a reference point that tells me about this folder. All right, now we'll get into the meat of things. Path space equals / home username and the name of the folder. Little trick for you. If you open up your file manager in this mode, the same I'm doing here, toggle the entry, right click and copy that, and you can paste that in there. Okay, I'm just going to delete that. All right, so net test. Don't forget to add that part in there. All right, so that's the path. Path space equals space home / Bob or whatever the name of your user is and the name of your share folder. Keep in mind, as I pointed out, I don't recommend spaces in the folders and I recommend making them short names. Okay, so hopefully that was clear. The next line says read space only equals no. What that means is because I told the file manager to make the permissions on this, everyone can read and write and read, write, and edit files in here. So that would be read only is a no. It's not a read only file or folder. Nettest is not read only. It's full. The guest space OK equals yes. You can use a guest account. And then you can put in force user equals whatever the name of your user is. In my case, it's Bob. Okay, so you'll see home Bob and force user Bob is the reference to the username. So that is a complete one share. The next line, what I did was I copied this and pasted that on the next line, and I edited this part and this part and this part. So I don't have to type everything. All right, so in this case, this again is done the same way with brackets. It's called nettest2, and that refers to this folder here. And remember, I got restricted permissions on there. Okay, it's a read-only. That would be a yes. That's the difference on these two. The last two lines, the guest, okay, and force user, are the same on both lines. Okay, I added a space in here just so you can see the clearance. And then I hit the save current file in elevated privilege mode. And that will save to my new SMB.conf file. You close that. I'm not going to do a save, I was just playing. But the file is currently the same. You want to check it out, you can reopen it. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Just go back in here and check it to make sure all your things that you've been typing were saved. And in my case, you can see it was. And I'll hit close. And what do I do from here? Restart the machine. Yes, you can restart services out of terminal, but I'll keep it simple. Restart the computer. Okay? Then you can open this puppy up and you can mount these from these share points. Okay? There's only two folders I'm sharing. And these look exactly the same on the Linux Mint 22 laptop that I have sitting on my right hand. That's what I'm sending files from. All right, and I have a third computer that I can do the same. So the Linux Mint laptop does not have Samba installed. It only has the bare minimum files. But I can still browse the network on that one. Hopefully that made sense to you. So make sure that you save a copy of the original SMB file somewhere. I just created a folder, and then you can just drag it in there. I already have a duplicate, so I can just replace that. Now I have a copy of it, right? Now let's talk about the firewall. Firewalls can prevent you from file sharing. I don't care if it's KDE Connect, or you're probably aware that Warpinator does this too. Warpinator also needs firewall rules if you're going to use that with firewalls. All right, so firewall. Mine has color, and what that means that means it's on. Firewalls, when you turn them off, don't need rules, obviously. And when you look at them, they're blank. When I turn this back on, though, you'll see rules. But I'm going to actually do this from scratch, so you can see how this is done. So last week, if you haven't seen that video on KDE Connect, how to transfer photos from your iPhone or Android, I also showed firewall rules in that one. That was for KDE Connect. This time we're going to be using firewall rules for SAMBA. So generally what we're looking at here is deny incoming. So no file sharing is going to occur when this is on. But we need rules to allow it to work. It will allow outgoing though. So allow in, all, and type in SAMBA, or SAM is close enough, it found it. If you want, you can do both in and out. That's all up to you. It just puts an extra couple of rules in there. But generally, if you just do allow in, all Samba, it's 4 rules. This is a UFW firewall, or GUFW. All right, now you can see the port numbers. Not that that's important. And UDP and TCP, and you're all set. Are you actually done? No. What do I recommend as soon as you play with firewall rules? It's called a reboot. Restart your computer. You play with Samba, any type of shares you're adding, any firewall rules that you've altered or add, recommend reboot. Okay? And again, after you reboot, I would open up your file manager. You're not going to see those. And make the file manager whatever size you want it. Click on your network. You should see your own computer right here. This is the name of this computer I'm filming from. And you should see these share points, and you should be able to access them with Anonymous, and it should open. And what is the two differences on the folders? Going up to here, or we can leave it here, it doesn't matter. This one is full access. That means that I can, on the laptop, I can even edit this file, and I can also send files and remove things. So to give you an example, I'm going to delete that 5 JPEG, and I'm going to do it off the laptop. I'm initiating a delete command. It's gone. This test1 file, I just wanted to let you see it says hello world on it. I'm going to remove today's date from that file. Text editor, where are you? So I am going to be removing today's date, and all it's going to have left is hello world. As soon as I hit save, you may see the file blink or the blue part go offline for a second. There we go. I just edited that file, and it now just says hello world. That's full access. Again, I can add folders, files, and even edit things from Bob's net test folder. I cannot do that from here. Bob is the only one who can add and delete files here. If I try to access this file online, which I can, I'm gonna just give me a second. I'm trying to do two things here. So I can see Bob's junk file here, but I can't open and edit it. Permissions denied. Even if I try to delete it, it's permissions denied, because that's a restricted folder. And that may be something to think about when you're sharing files on computers, even on your local network. This folder has full access. This one does not. So I talked about how to add the SAMBA through the software manager. I showed you how to edit the SMB, the SAMBA configuration file, to add those additional share points so you can have access to them. Again, you're opening up your file manager to allow this to happen when you do this kind of stuff. And if you change your mind, you can edit the original SMB file. You can also delete the original shares to remove them off the network. Then you can also go back into your software manager and uninstall this part of SAMBA, not all of them. So this part here is what I'm referring to, will not be installed. This and some of the other let me type the whole thing. So on my laptop that has Linux Mint 22, this is not installed, but this is, and I believe this one and Python 3 is installed. So when I installed that, I think it installed this and maybe that. I'm just looking at the files here. But this is the one that, if you're trying to do file sharing, is normally not installed. And when you're right-clicking on them and you do this, you'll see that little post-it note down here. And keep in mind, if you skipped over this video and you decided to go this route, good luck with that. Yeah, you'll have all kinds of fun with that message. Thank you for watching.